ورحمة الله. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره، نعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا، من يهده الله فهو المهتدي ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، أشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء، واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. أما بعد، فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله، خير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة، كل بدعة ضلالة، كل ضلالة في النار. السلام عليكم. Tonight, inshallah, we'll talk about تعليق الطلاق بالشروط, to divorce with condition. يعني to make your divorce conditional, and we will see what goes through and what doesn't go through, and what counts and what doesn't count, and what happens if you want to change your mind. We will talk about these issues, inshallah, tonight. Just a comment from last time. Some brother asked about if a husband, about the issue when we said when the husband gives his wife the option to divorce herself, and we said that she has that option as long as as long as they're still in the same gathering that he gave her that right. Okay, and we said what breaks that is either he changes his mind, okay, or and he said, okay, I changed my mind before she chooses. When we said if she chooses herself, then she's divorced, or what, or he if he has intimacy with her, that also a sign to change that. And regarding the issue of the husband giving his wife the absolute right to divorce herself, we said that's an issue that the ulama have spoken about. Some very few of Ahl al-Ilm allowed it, but Allahu A'lam, the correct opinion is a husband cannot give that absolute right for the wife to divorce herself. Okay, at any time, at any instance. That's very important issue, as the Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّمَا الطَّلَاقُ لِمَنْ أَخَذَ بِالسَّاقِ, and the one who takes saq is the man, the one who handles responsibilities is the man, and divorce is one of the factors or one of the issues of qawama, of the husband having over the wife, the preference that Allah had given the husband over the wife. One of those things is the divorce. So he should not give the absolute right to the wife, as they said, al-isma, or they call it al-isma, or the right to divorce her husband whenever she feels like it. Allahu A'lam, the right opinion, the man cannot give that absolute right to his wife. However, for an instance, he can. Okay, and then he changes his mind. Tonight, inshallah, تعليق الطلاق بالشروط. Some people, they divorce their wives. They say, if you do this, you're divorced. And this is ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. This has become so common, and it has become so redundant on the tongue of husbands, that whenever something upsets him, it's in English. So first I will do وإن قال ما قال إن لم أطلقك فأنت طالق. متى لم أطلقك فأنت طالق. Very rare. Just the ulama want the student of knowledge to be well prepared and familiar with these things just in case they have. متى لم أطلقك فأنت طالق لم يطلقها طلقت في الحال. وإن قال كلما لم أطلقك فأنت طالق فمضى زمن يمكن طلاقها فيه 3 ولم يطلقها طلقت 3 إن كانت مدخولا بها. وإن قال كلما ولدت ولدا فأنت طالق فولدت توأمين طلقت بالأول وبانت بالثاني لانقضاء عدتها به لانقضاء عدتها به ولم تطلق به. وإن قال إن حط فأنت طالق طلقت بأول الحيض فإن تبين أنه ليس بحيض لم تطلق به. وإن قالت قد حط فكذبها طلقت. وإن قال قد حط فكذبته طلقت بإقراره. وإن قال إن حط فأنت وضرتك طالقتان فقالت قد حط فكذبها طلقت دون ضرته. Huh?
There's no joke.
All right. So very much this is when we talk about the husband throwing the word divorce on his wife with a condition. So if this condition takes place, she is divorced. And we will talk about some scenarios that rarely happens and they don't happen. But the main thing that we are about to speak about, or the most common thing, is when a husband tells his wife, if you do this, you're divorced. Okay? If you proceed with this, you're divorced. And subhanallah, yesterday, some brother called me and he told this to his wife. So he called to ask for fatwa and what he should do. Just yesterday. So the point is, these things happen, so we need to be aware of it. So we start with what he said. قال المؤلف رحمه الله باب تعليق الطلاق. معنى تعليق الطلاق بالشرط أن لفظ الطلاق يعلقه بأداة من أدوات الشرط. When we talk about putting a condition on divorce, is someone puts a condition. If this condition takes place, the wife will be divorced. So as I gave the example, if you leave the house, you're divorced. Okay? If you hit your child, you're divorced. If you go along with this plan that you're planning, you're divorced. Stuff like that, as we will see. So that is what we are talking about tonight. Sometimes divorce, the condition can be time, and sometimes the condition can be an action, and sometimes both. So someone will say, if you leave the house today, you're divorced. So if she leaves the house tomorrow, she's not divorced. Stuff like that. So here we see an action and we see time. Sometimes one, not the other, and sometimes both combined. يقول يصح تعليق الطلاق والعتاق بشرط. So we can put a condition on divorce, and he mentioned the issue of العتاق, يعني to free a slave at the same time, because it's very much the same issue, that whatever applies to divorce will apply to freeing a slave. So if you have a slave and you tell him, if you do this, you're free. Okay, the same idea. So if he does it, he will be free. Okay, stuff like that. يقول المؤلف بعد النكاح والملك. So one of the conditions that this will go through, this divorce or this freeing of a slave will go through, if the condition takes place, is it has to happen after marriage. And with a slave, it has to happen after owning a slave. يعني, it's very common with the Arabs, okay? very common swears on their tongue, and I haven't heard it from other cultures, which I might not be familiar with, but I don't recollect. But you will see, like, he's not married yet, and he's hanging out with his buddies, or he's playing something, or he's chatting, or whatever, and he wants to prove something, so he swears. Okay, alayya talaq. It's like this. Okay, so he will swear that, and that means I divorce my wife if it's like that. Okay, so someone tells him, you know what, tomorrow tickets for a game are free, for example, whatever. So he said he doesn't believe it. Okay, so he said, I'll divorce my wife if that's true, and then it comes out to be true. All right, but he's not married, so such swear doesn't have any value because he's not married. Or someone will say, I will divorce my wife if this is true. But if you're not married, but when he gets married, will that wife be divorced automatically because he swore before? No. You cannot swear on something you don't own. Okay? So you're still not married, so you cannot swear to divorce someone you're not married. As well as you cannot give sadaqah something you don't own. And you cannot free a slave that you don't own. Even if you say, if I marry, in culture that he gonna, sometimes it's very understood that the person marries his cousin, for example. So he doesn't like his cousins, but she's the one that everyone planning since the day they're born, they're gonna get married. My son gonna marry your daughter, and they're still like not even born. So anyway, so he doesn't like her, so he said, she's divorced if I marry her. Because he wants to say, there is no way I'll ever marry her. And the qadar comes and plays, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decree that he marries her. That doesn't mean she's divorced. Even if it's the same person that he said, she's divorced. Not I'll divorce. She's divorced if I marry her. Okay? It doesn't count, because the divorce will not count because he's still not married to her. And as we said, the dalil on that, al-talaq liman akhada bis-saq. Talaq is for the one who akhad bis-saq, يعني who handles the responsibilities of marriage, who goes through the marriage and all that. That's the one who has the right to divorce, and obviously someone who's not married yet did not get those qualifications. قل مؤلف ولا يصح قبله. Obviously it doesn't take place before, as what we have here. So the marriage has to take place for the divorce to take place. Okay, the owning of a slave has to take place for the freeing of that slave to take place. And there's a hadith, as we mentioned, لا طلاق قبل النكاح, and hadith لا نذر لابن آدم فيما لا يملك ولا عتق فيما لا يملك ولا طلاق له فيما لا يملك. We said this hadith تدور بين الحسن والصحيح. This hadith that the Prophet said, no divorce without marriage, and no freeing without owning a slave, and no nether, an oath with something you don't own, and no divorce with what you're not married to. So all these are hadith, between sound hadith and authentic hadith, and they serve the same meaning, that you cannot divorce what you're not, or who you're not, a woman you're not married to. طيب هل يقع الطلاق المعلق أو لا يقع? Now the issue is someone threw the statement at his wife, and now the question is, will it count or it will not? Okay, someone told, let's take a scenario, and he gave some examples at the end which very rare, but we'll talk to them just for extra knowledge. Someone, just the most common thing, someone fights with his in-laws. Okay, he fights with his in-laws. So he comes to his wife and he said, she tells him, I want to go one day. She tells him, I want to go to visit my mother. He tells her, if you go to your father's house, you're divorced. He's angry, he's upset with them, whatever the situation is. So he tells his wife, if you go to your family's house, you're divorced. That's very common. Okay? Or if you go, a friend she has, he doesn't like, he doesn't feel comfortable that his wife with, He tells her, if you go to her house, you're divorced. Stuff like that. So let's take this scenario. Let's take this husband who told his wife, if you go to your family's house, you're divorced. Okay? And let's see, does this divorce count if she goes to her family's house? Or does it count? Or if he changes his mind, how can he get out of this? If he can't change can he change his mind? He can't. All these scenarios, inshallah, we will discuss because it's a very important issue. If when the husband tells his wife, if you go to your family's house, you're divorced. Jumhur Ahl al-Ilm, the majority of Ahl al-Ilm, said, if he meant, okay, divorce, and he was serious about that, يعني he will divorce her. He's certain in his mind what he's saying, that he will divorce her if she goes. Then the majority of Ahl al-Ilm said the divorce will take place if she goes. So if that condition takes place, the divorce takes place. If when he said it, he meant divorce. Okay? So if this woman decides, you know what? That's my father, that's my mother, I'm going. And she goes, she's divorced. If when he said to threaten her, he said, if you go, you will be divorced. And he's certain in his mind that he will divorce her. What can he mean? What else can he mean other than divorce? Some of the ulama, now the majority said it doesn't matter. The majority said it does not matter what he meant, whether divorce or not. If he said the word, okay, or what implies to the word, if a condition takes place and the condition takes place, they said it doesn't matter what his intention was, she's divorced. Some of the ulama said no. And Allahu A'lam, this opinion is the right opinion. They said if he meant divorce when he threatened her, then it will count as divorce. But if he meant to scare her, or he wants her to do something, okay, يعني for example, she doesn't visit his family. She has problem, for example, with his family. So he tells her, if you don't go to my family, I'll divorce you. But his intention is to push her to go. He doesn't want, the idea of divorce is not even in his mind. But he wants to scare her. So he wants to push her to do something. Or the opposite, like the scenario we said, he wants to stop her from doing something. So if that's his intention, mainly, and the divorce he just throw it in there to scare her. But his main intent, يعني if it takes place, he does not even think about divorcing her, just to scare her. So they said, إن قصد به الحث أو المنع أو التصديق أو التكذيب. إيه يعني التصديق؟ ها؟ تصديق يعني he's saying something and he wants to make sure that people believe it's true. Or he wants to deny something been said, so he swears by divorce. Okay, so if that is his intention when he throws the word divorce, not telling her you're divorced, we're talking about conditional. When he puts a condition on the divorce, so if he tells his wife, if you go to your family's home, you're divorced, and his intention was just to stop her from going, but if he goes, he will not divorce her. Then some of Ahl al-Ilm said, if that is his intention, then the divorce doesn't take place. Okay? The Jumhur said, it takes place, it doesn't matter what his intention is. But some of the ulama detailed. They said, if he intends the divorce, it's divorce. But if his intention to either discourage her from doing something, or encourage her to do something, or to affirm something was said, or to deny something was said, then it doesn't count. يعني تكذيب or تصديق علي الطلاق, if this is true, علي الطلاق if this is false, stuff like that. He will say, I'll divorce my wife if this is true. يعني he was separate. So he's just saying this expression to make sure that people believe it, or to make sure people don't believe it. If that's his intention, then it doesn't count as divorce if the condition takes place. Very important. That's the difference. Allahu A'lam, this is the right opinion. And the reason, the dalil on that is قول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إنما الأعمال بالنيات. Deeds judged by the intention, and this is a clear dalil for many things, but in this scenario is what's your intention? Is your intention to divorce her when you through that conditional divorce, or to just discourage or encourage or the situation? Okay? So what happens with a person who does that? Like someone tells his wife, if you leave the house, you're divorced, but his intention to discourage her from leaving, and she leaves. Okay? So what happens if it's not divorce? What is it? Inshallah, that's what we will talk about after Salat al-Isha. So we'll break for Salat al-Isha. Those who wants to leave can leave, and we continue after, inshallah. قل قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم صلى الله عليه وسلم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الصلاة والسلام على خير المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. So we go back to the talaq and conditional talaq, and we said that the majority of Ahl al-Ilm, the majority al-Jumhur, that if the condition that you hung your divorce or you base your divorce on takes place, then it doesn't matter what the intention of the husband was when he threatened with the divorce. If this action takes place, and we said some of the ulama, like Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, riwayah al-Imam Ahmad Ibn al-Qayyim, that if the intention of the threat or of the statement that was made is not the divorce, but the intention to encourage or discourage, to make something believable or not, to affirm a fact or reject it, then we said such divorce, if the condition takes place, doesn't count. And just to make it simpler, give example. So if someone tells his wife, if you leave the house, you're divorced, and she leaves the house, according to the majority of Ahl al-Ilm, no matter what his intention was, if she leaves the house, she's divorced. Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, and one opinion of Imam Ahmad, that because al-a'mal bin-niyat, and actions judged by the intention, they said if the husband's intention was just to discourage her from leaving, but in the back of his mind he will never divorce her if she leaves, he's just saying it to scare her or whatever, to get her to a point where she shouldn't leave, or whatever. If his intention was to encourage her to do something, if it was, if you don't do this, then I'll divorce you. Or if he wants to make sure that people believe what he's saying, so he said, alayya at-talaq, that what I'm saying is right. I would divorce my wife as a proof that what I'm saying is right. People make these swears. Or alayya at-talaq, what you're saying is not true. If that is his intention, to affirm a statement or to encourage or discourage, then the right opinion, wallahu a'lam, doesn't count. Such divorce, if the condition takes place, does not count. However, if it takes place, okay, if it takes place, then the ulama, now, before I go to this point, we need to make sure that if you're asked about this, or if you talk about this, it's very important to mention the other opinion. That is the opinion of the majority of Ahl al-Ilm. Even though we're saying the more correct, it's based on the intention, but it's very important to mention the other opinion so people don't take this issue leniently. So when he's walking in and walking out, everything he wants to swear, he goes through divorcing. La. It's very important to make sure that people and husbands whose tongues are so accustomed to these things know very well that the opinion of majority of the scholars is it will count as divorce. So this way they will be careful and they will tame their tongues and their mouths and control themselves. Okay. Right. What if the condition takes place? Those who said it's divorced, it's divorced. The other opinion, which we said perhaps the more correct, because إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ, it will count as yameen, as an oath. It will count as an oath. طيب, if it counts as an oath, what does that mean? Now, if someone tells his wife, if you go to this place, you're divorced, as long as she doesn't go, we don't have problem. Okay? But if she goes, to those who said it doesn't count as a divorce, they said it will count as an oath that has been broken. And when the oath is broken, then there is kafara, there is expiation. And kafara is to feed 10 people, or to dress them, to clothe them, or to free a slave. And if you can't do one of those three, then you fast 3 days. So for those who said the divorce will not count, if the intention when he threw the statement of conditional divorce was just to discourage or encourage, then he has to give kafara. He has to give kafara. طيب, قال المؤلف وأدوات الشرط 6: إن وإذا وأي ومتى ومن وكلما وليس فيها ما يقتضي التكرار إلا كل. يعني, this is in the Arabic language. When people put condition, they can use 6 different words. يعني, it's just that linguistics, I don't think it's very important to focus on this for our purpose. يعني, in means if, and either also means if, and ay also if, all of them means in the meaning of if you do this, whenever you do this, you're divorced, or if you dare to do this. So we're talking about conditional statements. And they said all these things means one time, but there is one word that means multiple, which is kullama. So in English, every time. Okay? So every time you do this, you're divorced. Okay? That means every time she does it, she's divorced. But if he tells his wife, if you go to your family, you're divorced. So if she goes, okay, she gets divorced, and that's it. And then he takes her back. That's it. That doesn't mean if she goes again, she's divorced, unless he says it again. But if he makes a statement, every time you go to your family's house, you're divorced. So if she goes to her family, she's divorced. Then he takes her back. Okay? Then she goes back again, she's divorced. Or he doesn't even take her back. She goes again while she's divorced, then he divorced her again. So 3 times she's divorced, it's over. Right? If he used the term whenever you go, you're divorced, or every time you go, you're divorced, or every time you do this, every time you say this, you're divorced. So if he used an expression, or he used an expression that means repetition or redundance, then definitely every time this action takes place, it will count as divorce. But if he uses if, it's one time and it's done. Okay? It's one time and it's done. فإذا قال إن قمت فأنت طالق فقامت طلقت وانحل شرط. يعني, he gives you now example. If he said, if you get up, you're divorced. Sometimes, يعني, they make it so complicated. Some husbands, يعني, هداهم الله, someone asked, he said, he told his wife, if you stand up, you're divorced, and if you stay sitting down, you're divorced. Alright? Huh? Okay? Lay down. Lay down. No, ruku'. She's going to get up for ruku'. Alright? So, some people, يعني, do that. How can you get him an out? Keep her sleeping? What? You know? Okay? So again, in this situation, we ask him, did you do that? Did you say that? Meaning, you're going to really divorce her, or just said it? Okay? Anyway. So Al-Muallif gives you example. So he said, if someone tells his wife, if you get up, if you stand up, you're divorced. So if she stands up, she's divorced. But his statement, his conditional divorce is over then. Yani it doesn't carry on if this man takes back his wife. Clear? So she's divorced once. Because he used the expression if. If, understood, one time. Okay? So that is, when حل شرطه, يعني it's over. The divorce thing, standing up and getting divorced, is over because it took place once. Because the expression means one. قال وإن قال كلما قمت فأنت طالق طلقت كلما قامت. But if he tells her every time you get up or every time you stand up you're divorced, then every time she stands up she's divorced. So if she stands up 3 times, she's divorced 3 times. But if she gets up after 3 times, if she gets up after 3rd time, that's it. You reach max. Okay? You reach his max. So if she gets up the first time, she's divorced first time. Then she sits down. Then she gets up again, she's divorced for the 2nd time. Then she sits down. Then she gets up again, 3rd time, بانت بينونة كبرى. خلاص, he can't even marry her back unless she marries someone else and she gets divorced. Alright? Now he mentions some scenarios that are very rare. But it's very good practice. And this, remember, these ulama put these scenarios in case. So when someone comes, because يعني subhanallah, يعني alhamdulillah, we studied the Hajj, fiqh of al-Hajj here twice. If you remember, we studied it once, then I went to Hajj, and when I came back, we studied again. Okay? And I've been to Hajj for the last 3 years, alhamdulillah. And I read a lot in Hajj, in fiqh al-Hajj, to a point where you start thinking, that's it. I came across everything. I heard everything. You know? And it doesn't matter how much you think you learned. Yani, you think you heard every scenario that could happen. Every time you go to Hajj, you hear many scenarios you never came across. And the only way you can answer these questions is if you understand the fundamentals. That's it. Yani very rare you will find the ulama mentioning these scenarios, because they're uncountable scenarios that can take place. Yeah. One of the things that happened this last Hajj, brother with another group, the group had my parents with them. And he's the brother from here, from somewhere north, Florida. I go to visit, and he tells me his story. So what happened is, as you go you reach Mecca, you make Umrah, and then you get out of Ihram, that is Tamattu', and then the day, when the 8th day of the Hijjah comes, you put your Ihram to make Hajj. So you may end up making Umrah and Hajj, but they're separate. The Umrah is completely separate entity from the Hajj. That is Tamattu'. So when he did his Umrah and was done, and then he did his Hajj, he stayed in Arafah, he slept in Muzdalifah, he came to Mina, he went to throw to make Tawaf al-Ifada, the last Tawaf, and came back to sleep in Mina. He was sitting in Mina in the tent, relaxing, and reading a book about al-Hajj. He realized that his sa'i in al-Umrah was wrong when he was reading. Because sa'i between Safa and Marwa 7 times. So when you stand on the Safa, you start walking toward the Marwa. Once you hit the Marwa, that's 1. So the mistake he made, because at the end the book tells you that you start with the Safa, and if it's 7 times, you're going to end up where? In the Marwa. Okay? He remembered that every time he ended up at Safa. So he started thinking, how did I end up in Safa if I counted 7? The problem he fell in is when he stood in Safa, he said 1. He hasn't walked anything yet, but he counted 1. So when he got to Marwa, 2. It's actually 1. And that was way days before in Umrah. And he got out of Ihram and he got all this. Because once you go in the state of Ihram, you cannot get out of it just because you feel like. You better finish the ritual and then you get out of it. Or if there is something stops you, يعني something beyond your control, فمحلي حيث حبستني. So at that moment, يعني you're going to Mecca, you make your ihram at al-miqat, and you start heading to Mecca. You still have few miles between you and Mecca, and then someone comes, or a beast or whatever comes, and they prevent you from going. They strip you off of everything and they force you to go back. Or you make ihram in the air, and once you land in the airport of Jeddah, your paperwork is not right. You can't go. They won't let you in. Okay? So in those situations, you get out of your ihram because you have no choice. But you cannot start the ihram and get to Hajj or get there and say, you know what, I don't feel like doing it this year. So let me take off, I'm out of ihram, I come back next year. You can't do that. You will be in ihram until next year. You will not be able to get out of your ihram. Very important to understand. So this brother who went between Safa and Marwa only 6 times, that means he did not reach a point where he is eligible to get out of ihram. So in other words, he's still in ihram from that day until today. He's still in ihram. But now that what happened is a new ihram came into the picture, which is the ihram for Hajj. And then a new tahallul, getting out of ihram, took place when he went and he threw the jamra and he got his hair and did the tawaf al-ifad. So a lot of complication in and out. يعني you won't find such thing in the books. But if you know the fundamentals, it's easy. So what happened, he's telling me, so when he found out that in the tent, and of course he also made the sa'i for al-hajj, and he did the same mistake. He made the same mistake. He asked one of the leaders in his group. He told him, I'm not sure, but to be safe, go make sa'i. For what? Sa'i al-umrah. Like al-umrah took place days before. And he already got out of the ihram, and he already did. Why are you going to send him again to make tawaf, to make sa'i? Obviously, first, when he said, I'm not sure, he should have not given a fatwa. And just go in case, that is a fatwa. Okay? Second, when this brother saw this person or this brother was hesitant, he should have not taken his word. Because you're talking about leaving from Mina on the first day of Al-Eid, the 10th. That is, Mecca is يعني crowded. You got 2+ million people want to make tawaf al-ifada that day. Okay? So here he goes and he comes back, and now you're telling him, just in case, go. As if making sa'i to Mecca from Mina to Mecca is like going from here to outside. Okay? It's like over, I think it's about 7 to 8 kilometers. And impossible to find even a vehicle to carry you there on that day. So that means he has to walk one way to make sa'i and then come back, just in case. So he went. Now he's telling me this story. So he came back to Mina, he's relaxing, he's still not confident because of the answer wasn't even confident. Now they finish Mina, they go to, they stay a couple of days in Mecca, next to the Haram this time, in one of the hotels. So he asked another leader in the group. He said, you should go make sa'i again, just in case. And then about the dam, if you have to sacrifice, we have to find out. Because you know, if you miss something in Hajj, you sacrifice. Something like is not rukn, intentionally. So he went. He might already, in case, he did, in case. Why are you sending him again for in case? Okay? So he told me, what you think? I started putting everything together. First, when he got out of the ihram of the Umrah, he actually never got out of ihram. True? Because he only did 6, and you have to do tawaf 7 and sa'i 7 to be able to cut your hair and be out of ihram for Umrah. So the fact he only did 6, that means it doesn't matter if he cut his hair or got off the ihram. He's still right in the state of ihram. So that means he was in state of ihram from the day he made Umrah, which was never finished, and his new ihram into the Hajj didn't matter. He's just making ihram over ihram. So what happened on the day of the 8th, which is he needs to make ihram for Hajj, he just got back to ihram. He didn't start a new ihram. The ihram is still the same from the Umrah. So he's been all this time in ihram, yes, doing things that he's not supposed to do, but he's ignorant of it. He doesn't know that he's not out of ihram because he didn't know that he made that mistake. Alright? So you start thinking, that means he's still in the same ihram he made Umrah with and Hajj. One ihram. If you make Hajj and Umrah together and you join them and you start using the same, if you made the sa'i, then, and if you made your sa'i for the Umrah, you don't have to make sa'i for Hajj. And the fact his sa'i for Umrah was not complete, then he needs to make a sa'i for the Hajj that is complete, and that will compensate for the Hajj, for the sa'i. Then he gets Umrah and Hajj together, combined, and that is called Hajj Qiran. So what happens, the only thing that happened is he switched his Umrah or his Hajj from Tamattu' to Qiran. So all he needed to do, actually, there is no in case. Okay? What he did, he needed to go and do the sa'i for Hajj and do it complete, and he's done. And there is not even them, because he was ignorant. You see, there's a difference if he was on his Safa and he wasn't sure. Does it count one here, from here, or from there? La. He thought it counts one from there. But if he was unsure, then he should have asked. And if he didn't ask, then there is dam. There's blood on it. But the fact he was ignorant of it, there is no dam. So all he needed to do is just continue or finish your sa'i for the Hajj, and that will compensate for the Umrah, and your Hajj is Qiran. Because what happens, the Prophet ﷺ, if you remember, we said the Prophet ﷺ, when they came from Medina to Mecca to make Hajj, they were in state of Qiran. They want to make Qiran. And then the Prophet ﷺ ordered them to change their intention to Tamattu'. That means if I start with Tamattu', I can't change to Qiran. If I start with Qiran, I can't change to Tamattu'. If I start with Tamattu' Niyya, I can't change to Ifrad. Alright? So now we know he can change from this to that. And then we need to understand what is the difference between this and that to be able to give. So I told him, and honestly I had to think about it. So I sat there for a few minutes, and then I told him, this is the way. You have nothing to worry about. You already made the sa'i again, perfect sa'i. Okay? That's it. There's nothing new, not even blood. Obviously, after all this, you think you're going to take that as an answer? Everyone is telling me go do sa'i just in case, and then we're going to find out about if you have to give a blood or not. And now you're telling him, you're done, your Hajj is done. So, and the brother is a little with some waswas, a little unsure, and he wants to make sure everything okay. So I said, okay, we do this. We ask one of the ulama who give, and they have a hotline there. You call for fatwa, and some of the ulama or students of knowledge who know about these things, they will answer. So we got the number, I called it for him, and we explained the situation right away. It took 2 seconds. He said, your Hajj converted from Tamattu' to Qiran. There is nothing on you, no blood, nothing, and he hang up. The guy hang up, did not even say Salaam Alaikum. Imagine how many people call him every day. Okay? So the fact that you will find in the books of fiqh, they give scenarios that most probably they'll never exist. Or most probably they hardly will exist. but they put them for the student of knowledge to be ready. So he doesn't have, and especially with the issues of divorce, he needs to know right away. Should I stay with my wife or should I sleep outside today? Because she's not my wife anymore. Or should I send her home? Or should I do this? Should I? Alright? So it's very important to be. So let's see these scenarios that they mention. وإن كانت نافية كقوله إن لم أطلقك فأنت طالق كانت على التراخي إذا لم ينوي وقتا بعينه فلا يقع الطلاق إلا في آخر أوقات الإمكان. طيب, if someone tells his wife, if I don't divorce you, then you're divorced. If I don't divorce you, you're divorced. So what you going to tell this person?
He's divorcing.
Huh?
He's divorcing.
Yani if I don't divorce you, you're divorced. So now we say, does this take place right away, immediately, or على التراخي? Yani, do we say, if he doesn't divorce her in the next 2 seconds, she's divorced, or we say, as long as he's not divorcing her, she's divorced? Yani, we have to reach a point where he's out of an option to divorce her. Then she will be divorced. When is that? When can you run out of an option to divorce your wife if you tell her, if I don't divorce you, you're divorced? La, death. That means she gets, العلماء said, على التراخي. يعني this does not take effect right away. So what it takes place? على التراخي يعني when it reaches a point where he cannot divorce her, then she's divorced. And very much they said that is very much moments before he dies. So a moment before he dies, she is divorced, or a moment before she dies, she's divorced. If I don't divorce you, you're divorced. So they said, as long as there is time for him to divorce her, then she's not divorced. But once he runs out of time, then she's divorced على تراخي. إذا لم ينوي وقتا بعينه فلا يقع الطلاق إلا في آخر أوقات الإمكان. آخر أوقات الإمكان يعني قبل أن يهلك, يعني before he dies or she dies. Alright? Right. That's of course if he does not intend specific time. يعني if he doesn't tell her, if I don't divorce you, you're divorced, and in the back of his head, by tomorrow. Okay? Or if he tells, if I don't divorce you by tomorrow, you're divorced. So if tomorrow comes and he hasn't divorced her, she's divorced. So whether it's before or after, she's divorced. If I don't divorce you, you're divorced. Okay? So قال وسائر الأدوات على الفور. يعني any way you say it means right away except in this situation. قال فإذا قال متى لم أطلقك فأنت طالق ولم يطلقها طلقت في الحال. He said, as long as I'm not divorcing you, you're divorced. Then she's divorced right away. Because he used mata. Okay? Mata means, as long as I'm not divorcing you, you're divorced. This indicates right away. So she is divorced right away. قال كلما لم أطلقك فأنت طالق فمضى زمن يمكن طلاقها فيه 3 ولم طلقت 3. If he tells his wife, every time I don't divorce you, you're divorced. Every time I don't divorce you, you're divorced. So they're saying, if a time passes where he can divorce her physically, literally 3 times, then once that time passes, she's divorced 3 times. Because we said kullama means repetition, redundant. So if he tells his wife, every time I don't divorce you, you're divorced. So if it takes him, let's say 5 seconds to divorce her once, and another 5 seconds to divorce her 2, and another 5 seconds to divorce her 3rd time, because we said that counts. If someone tells his wife, you're divorced and divorced and divorced, you're divorced, then divorced, then divorced, we said one of the opinion and strong opinion that it counts. So if the 15 seconds pass, she's divorced 3 times, because he used the redundant. قال إن كان مدخول بها. That is, these conditions, as long as he had consummated the marriage. If he did not consummate the marriage, that different scenario, we will talk about it next time inshallah. قال وإن قال كلما ولدت ولدا فأنت طالق فولدت توأمين طلقت بالأول وبانت بالثاني. This scenario I want to leave it at the end because it's very interesting and I want to see your intelligence. قال المؤلف وإن قال إن حطي فأنت طالق طلقت بأول الحي. If he tells his wife, if you get your period, you're divorced. Some people, and this, Allahu A'lam, يعني, I see this is exactly what the Prophet ﷺ said, يعني, when they told him a man divorced his wife 3 times, one shot. He ﷺ got angry, and he said, you play with the words, with the laws of Allah. تلعبون بآيات الله وأنا بين ظهرانيكم. You dare to play with the laws of Allah and I'm still amongst you. And he was angry ﷺ, to the point even one of the Sahaba, when they saw him so angry, one of the Sahaba said, let me kill him, Ya Rasulullah. Let me go kill this man who plays with the ayat of Allah. You know? So the point is, Allahu A'lam, all these things, when someone comes and he tells you, every time you get your period, you're divorced, والله يعني هذا تلاعب. And as a punishment for this person, they will count. You know, as a punishment. Because we said there is no joke when it comes to divorce. Even if you're joking, still count as divorce. So, قال, if he tells his wife, if you get your period, you're divorced. So once she gets her period, she's divorced. Okay? قال فإن قالت قد حط فكذبها طلق. If she says, he said, okay, you got your period now, huh? She said, no. She's divorced. Why? Even if she denies, okay, or if he denies, يعني if she said, yeah, I got my period, so I should be divorced. He said, no, you did not get your period. Obviously, she knows about her period more than him. So if she says, okay, he tells her, if you get your period, you're divorced. So she gets her period. Huh? When someone would say that to his wife, if you get your period, you're divorced. Yeah, if he wants her pregnant, maybe he wants her pregnant and he's like little cuckoo, you know. So if you get your period, that means you're not pregnant. I'm done with it. Stuff like that. Anyway, so if he tells her, if you get your period, you're divorced, then once she gets her period, she's divorced. But once she gets her period, she comes to him, okay, you know what? I got my period. He said, no, you didn't. She's divorced. Because she knows about her period more than him, even if he denies. Okay? But listen to it. وإن قال قد حط وكذبته طلقت بإقراره. طيب, if he said, okay, if you get your period, you're divorced. 2 days later, he comes to her, he said, you got your period, huh? She said, no. That will count as divorce as well. Even if she did not get her period, because now he wants the divorce and he's making it as if it exists. So he's making the reason for his divorce exist, even if it doesn't exist, because he made it exist, it's divorce. Not how. بإقراره لأنه أقر على نفسه بهذا فيقع الطلاق. Because he wants a reason to divorce him. So he started thinking, maybe she start taking pills that completely eliminate her period. No, you got your period, huh? No, I didn't, she says. He said, no, you got it. I believe you got it. It's due. She's divorced, even if she did not have her period. Yeah, and in other words, he's saying, you're divorced. I said, when you get your period, okay, you're divorced now. I'm going to assume you got your period, you're divorced. Got it? That's what it means. قال فإن قال إن حط فأنت وضرتك طالقان فإن قالت قد حط فكذبها طلقت دون ضرته. If he's married to 2 and he tells her, if you get your period, and of course this is period thing is يعني condition from many conditions. If you get your period, you're divorced and my other wife divorced too. Okay? This guy يعني they said a guy divorced 5 wives. In one of the طرائف يعني. They said a guy divorced 5 wives. Of course you cannot have more than 4. They said he said he divorced his first one. So the second one told him, حرام عليك يعني, why did you do that? So he said, you're divorced too. So the third one said, يعني, you're so heartless. He said, you're divorced too. The fourth one said, what's wrong with you? He said, you're divorced too. You know? The neighbor's wife heard him saying all that, so she screamed at her. So he said, you're divorced too. So her husband said, and I second my brother. Yani I second what the neighbor said, you're divorced. You know? So they said, that's the man who divorced 5 wives. You know? But the point is, some people, this divorce thing on their mouths like water. Yani everything. And it's subhanallah. So here, if he tells his wife, if you get your period, you and my other wife divorce. So she gets her period, and she says, I got my period. So he denies. He denies, then she's divorced, but his second wife is not. Okay? The second wife, because he's denying regarding her, not regarding the other wife. And she, like when she said, I got my period, she's confirming it on herself. The issue, the other issue, وَإِنْ قَالَ كُلَّمَا وَلَدْتُ وَلَدًا فَأَنْتِ طَالِقٌ فَوَلَدَتْ تَوْأَمَيْنِ. طب what happens? يلا نشوف. A woman, someone told his wife, every time you give birth to a child, you're divorced. Okay? So she got pregnant with twins. What happens? Who can tell me? Huh?
She's not divorced.
Why?
Because he said every time you get a child.
He said every time you give birth to a child, you're divorced. Obviously both will not come out at the same time.
Two girls.
Huh?
2 times.
2 times? Most probably that's what 99% of the people will say. Who got something else? Of course you can. That's one of the sunnah. Yani not the sunnah like the Prophet did, but that's one of the times where you can divorce your wife, during her pregnancy. And here he's saying when you give birth, you're divorced.
She lost the baby.
She lost the baby? No, I'm saying she gave birth to twins. What happens? Don't give me C-section and D-section and...
Doesn't apply.
Let's see.
The first one, she did.
Huh? 2 times? Bye.
No divorce.
No divorce? So 0, 2. Anyone else?
The guy wants her to give all the time, like twins and 3.
No, you're making it too complicated.
He knows she's gonna give birth.
La.
Okay. When the first one comes out, then she's divorced once.
Uh-huh.
Then when the second one is coming out, then it's gonna be up to his intention.
La. You guys want to go and start looking into in the books of fiqh? Bye. If someone divorces his wife, forget about being pregnant. If someone divorces his wife and her iddah passes, what happens? We said there is iddah. We're going to say 3 months. It's for a woman who still gets her period. It's not 3 months exactly, but we're going to, just for the sake of argument, we're going to say 3 months, right? So if someone divorces his wife and her iddah passes the 3 months, which is 3 tuhur or 3 haydan, and he does not take her back, she's done with him. That's called baynuna sughra. Meaning, if he wants to take her back as a wife, he has to do a new mahar, a new contract, and her new accept. But within the period of her iddah, he can take her back whenever he wants without her approval. Because she's still very much his wife. That's why she stays in his house, if it's the first or second divorce. True? If someone divorces his wife while she's pregnant, what is her iddah?
When she gives birth.
When she gives birth. Because some women get their period while they're pregnant. But the majority, and the ulama have different opinion, if that's period or it's just blood, not blood of a period. The ulama have different opinion. But the point, most women don't get their period while they're pregnant. So the iddah becomes giving birth. So if he divorces her in the first month, her iddah is 8 months. If he divorces her in the 9 month, her iddah might be a couple of days. Okay? So the iddah for a pregnant woman is to give birth. Cool? So if someone tells his wife, if you give birth, you're divorced. Fine. So once the first baby comes out, she's divorced. And now she's in what? She's in her iddah. Once the second baby comes out, what happens?
Cancel.
Her iddah is over. Because the iddah for a pregnant woman, because when the one baby is still in her belly, she's still pregnant. You understand? Because the divorce, he did not say divorce will take place before you give birth. He said once the baby is out, you're divorced. So the iddah has nothing to do with giving birth, because the divorce takes effect for the first child once the baby is out. So she still have her iddah 3 months. Right? Clear? So once the first baby comes out, now she is divorced, so now she has to spend 3 months iddah. But because she's pregnant still with the second child, when he comes out, her iddah is over, because she was pregnant when she got divorced. So if the second child comes in and that ends her iddah, so how many divorce? One. You guys got it? Still confusing. The first divorce counts because that's when the child came. The second doesn't count because when the child came, that ended her iddah. That means بانت بينونة صغرى. What does that mean? If a woman, her iddah passes, he cannot take her back unless he marries her again with a new contract, new mahr. So once the iddah is over, if someone divorces his wife and then her iddah passes, he cannot divorce her again. That's it, she's not his wife at all. So the only time he can marry her again and divorce her, and that will count as second time. But once the iddah is over, he cannot divorce her anymore. She's not his wife anymore. But if she's during her iddah, he can divorce her second time and third time, because she's still his wife, even if he divorced her first or second time. So in our scenario, when the first baby came out, she's divorced once. She's still his wife because she's in her iddah. Okay? But she's still pregnant with another baby. So the second baby comes, even if it's 2 minutes later, her iddah was over. So her iddah was only 2 minutes, because the iddah of a pregnant woman ends by giving birth. So once the second baby came out, her iddah was over. So he can't divorce her for a second baby if she's not even his wife anymore, because the second baby finished the iddah. Got it? So the divorce is one. That's why he said وإن قال كلما ولدت ولدا فأنت طالق فولدت توأمان طلقت بالأول. She's divorced when the first one comes. وبانت بالثاني. بانت يعني that's it, he cannot take her back unless they do a new contract, because it's only one time divorce. ولهذا قال بانت بالثاني لانقضاء عدتها به, because when the second came out, her iddah was over. So that's why بانت يعني he cannot marry her without a new contract. ولم تطلق به, and she's not it will not count as divorce, the second baby. Clear? So we stop here inshallah, and we continue with the section of الرجعة next time. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد. جزاكم الله خير. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.